Susie from the Speckled Loon. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. And I'm so glad you're here. Please consider giving us a little like or subscribe so you can see more of this content in the future. What am I bringing you today? I have got for you the funnest little Christmas DIY decor kit. It is Thanksgiving weekend here in North Dakota. We have just put away our fall decor. We've got a little snow on the ground. It's time to take out the tree and get all that stuff. Bring out the warm hats, the fuzzy vests, and get in that Christmas spirit. So the DIY decor kit I am bringing you today has 5 projects in it, all things Christmas. The little red truck, a gnome, peppermint candy, cookies, beads, decorations, everything that you can have for a cute little decor kit you can put on a tiered tray or an accent shelf. It's easy enough for you to do by yourself if you're a beginner, or do along with your kids over the Christmas break. Without further ado, let's head on over to the craft room and get busy making our Christmas DIY decor kit. Let's go! So let's get crafting. This is what comes in your kit. All the pieces are unpainted for you to add whatever color you want. It's 5 projects in total, and they come to you with all the pieces and parts you need to make them. Everything really except the paint and glue. The 5 include the gnome kit, the tag banner with the beads and twine, the official cookie tester sign, the little red truck sign where you can paint the truck and the tree, and the Baked with Love garland set. All the beads and everything come in the set for you to finish and paint however you would like. And now we're going to talk about your supplies and what you need there. I use the Waverly chalk paint from Walmart. If you can't find that brand, there is a similar brand at your Walmart called Hello Hobby with similar colors. They might just be called a little something different. My paint is well loved, as you can see. I use it. I have stains all over it, but it's what I use. The crimson, a black, a green, a white, and a brown. The brown I use is called Antique Wax. I also use these paint markers from Arteza. I'll link them down below. They're great for little small parts like your words and little pieces of the gnome. I use this little foam makeup sponges and the small foam brushes that you can get at any craft store. For cleanup, it's nice to have a pack of baby wipes. These are just from the Dollar Tree. Your glue, this is just comes in a 2-pack from the Dollar Tree, the super glue or Gorilla glue. I also like to use the Star Bond thick glue. That's what I use because I have a little applicator tip for the fine details, but you can use whatever you've got on hand. You also need probably a little bit of painter's tape here and there for cleanup and for masking things off. And I like to use paper plates for my paint. Project number 1 is our tag banner. So your tag banner is going to come to you unfinished with 5 tags. 3 of them will have the little peppermint candy design, and 2 of them will have the gingerbread people. Your little colored beads come to you pre-painted in the twine. I use red, brown, and white for mine. Again, I use the Waverly brand, but any brand of chalk paint or acrylic paint will work. I use the foam brush for the tags, I believe, and I just use the little sponges for the small parts. Here's what mine look like all painted. I wasn't going to bore you with watching me paint everything, but I will show you a couple little tips and tricks along the way. So what I do is pour a little paint on a paper plate, dab my little dauber in it, and sponge away and get everything done. If I get any down in the crevices where I don't like, I use a Q-tip or a toothpick to get that out. For the white ones, on the tags, I just dabbed on the white. If I got any on the sides, because I like my sides to stay clean, I take out a baby wipe and wipe it off and clean it up. If you want to paint your sides, you can go ahead. I like the crisp, dark border. I'm going to show you how I did the little gingerbread people. I used antique wax on them, and they have a little etched in design. And I just go ahead and I put that on there, and then I let it set for a few seconds, and then I take a paper towel, and then the paint goes in the crevices, and the rest of it just turns brown. So that's how I painted my little gingerbread people. You could do it with water-based stain, or any kind of watered down brown paint. And then I just took my glue and dabbed everything on. I lost the footage of me gluing it, but we glue things together later on down in the video. And it's all the same technique, basically a dab or a little dab on the back where it won't show when you press down, and then you press it down and hold it and it is adhered. So here I'm just showing you how I string together the tag banner. I like to go down the first hole, up through the second hole, put a bead in between each tag, and continue on until I have it all strung together like that. And in the next shot, you'll see where I have everything strung together. And then we've got 2 extra beads, 1 for each end, and you can put a little bit of tape at the end of your twine to make it feed through easier, or use a toothpick to push it through. And you're just going to take that last bead, butt it up against the banner, and then on each side what I do is I make a slip knot or a loop basically and pull it through, and then double knot that, and then cut off the excess. And what that does, it gives you a little loop on each end to hang your banner. You can hang your banner several different ways. You can use tape, to just painter's tape on the back to kind of adhere it. You can use hooks. If your tier tray is metal, you can get magnetic hooks and put it on that way. But basically you're just going to have a loop knot at each end for hanging, or you can display it however you want. It would even look really cute strung on your Christmas tree. You decide however you want, and this is what my finished banner looks like. Project number 2 is the official cookie tester sign. First of all, excuse my little hoarse voice, I am fighting a cold, but this sign is so easy. It comes to you all together. Each word is welded together so you don't have the individual letters, and then everything is scored into the background as to where you need to place everything. So after you paint it, the score lines will be nice and faint. They won't show up in your finished project, but they are there so you can see where to place everything. And then you just randomly place the little cookie parts on there. Very easy to do. This is what mine looks like all painted. I did the red on the back, I used the brown on the word cookie and on the cookie, and I used the white on the words. I basically, again, just used the little makeup sponge and sponged it on each thing, painted the cookie like I showed you before, and got them on. When you paint the backer, I painted that with a brush because it's a larger area. Your lines that are there, you can barely see them, but they are there. And they are just there as a placement, and that's all you need them for. So I am going to take out my glue next. Again, I'm using that Starbond glue with the fine applicator tip. I will link that below, but your Dollar Tree glue will work just fine. If it's coming out too globby or too thick, put a little bit on a toothpick and then put it on your project so it will apply very thin, because you don't want it oozing out. And that way you get a nice look in the end. Now here I'm just lining it up. I've got terrible eyes, so I have to bring it really close so I can see what I'm doing. And I don't want my head in the shot. So there you go. I've got it all lined up with those score lines, and now I'm just pressing it down. And the nice thing about this, they're meant to be a little crooked, so if you get them on there not quite right, it still looks fine. Did the same thing with the cookie and the tester. You can paint the back if you want, or leave it. Here's, I'm just showing you, I'm gluing on the cookie parts, and there's no rhyme or reason where they go. They just kind of fit on the end there because it's a bit cookie. And that is how that looks, all put together, and it's nice and secure. And this little sign also comes with its own little 2-piece stand. You just put the slots in together and place the sign on there. We do always like to include a little stand in our kits for the round signs, otherwise they roll all over your tray and don't stay put. You can paint the stand or leave it unfinished and just put your little sign on there to display. Project number 3 is our classic Christmas tree truck. I put this in by popular demand. My customers loved the little truck and wanted it in this kit, and so I put it on there. It's got the buffalo plaid background with the design etched right in there for easy placement of the tree in the truck, and it comes together just flawlessly. So I used classic Christmas colors for this, but I'll show you some options later on. I used red for the truck, kind of a fern green for the tree, and I did the background in white, and you're going to want your little paint markers for accents. For the white, I just put it on with the foam makeup sponger, and I used that on everything. And this is what mine looks like, all painted and put together. So I did do the green and went over it with a green marker to get kind of a branch look. And I'm going to show you how the paint marker works on the star. So I use my gold metallic Arteza paint marker, and any paint marker from any craft store is going to do. And you just make sure you've got the paint flowing by shaking it and pressing the little tip down a little bit, and then you just draw right on there like you're painting, but with the marker. If you have a flub up, then just go over that with the other marker to touch it up, and it looks great. I also used it on the truck for the tires. What I did was I painted my whole entire truck red. I didn't worry about the tires at first. If I got red on the tires, that was fine. And what I did was I took out my marker, and this is the black paint marker, and I just went on there. Now you could use a Sharpie. They tend to dry out on the paint. They don't work as good, but in a pinch you could. Or just go to the Dollar Tree. They have paint markers there too in many colors. And any craft store too. But basically I just went around each tire and got them all colored in. There's score marks and empty spaces, so you won't go over on the red very easily. And this is what it looks like. And then you're just going to start gluing your project together. Now I am going to show you first. I did do a green truck, so you can see what an iconic green truck would look like for your John Deere green type fans. With the tree on, that looks great. If you want to do the backer a different color, here's a different backer that I used for another project, but it was in red. And I did the truck in white on that. That's just one more option for you, so you can see what that looks like and not be stuck with what I choose for colors. You can pick whatever you want. So to glue it, I find it's easiest to do the tree first. Remember, it's all scored and it shows you right where to line everything up. So I get the tree all lined up first and on there. I have a few seconds with my glue to work with it and get it all positioned. Then I go ahead and I put glue on the back of the red truck and get that adhered down, and then you have this simple sign all put together and ready to display with your other pieces. Project number 4 is the classic Christmas gnome. We like to include a gnome in all our kits. They're so popular and people love them. This one we added little hands so he can hold something. We're going to use red, white, brown, and then our black marker for the boots. And he comes with the little hat, the little hands, and the little spacers that are going to hold the hands up so he can hold an object. The cookie that he holds that we'll paint brown. I leave the nose unpainted. I've got his beard and his body and his shoes. And those are, then you see the base of the gnome. Those are all the parts of the gnome that come. He's got a lot of pieces and parts. They should all be bagged together. So what I do is I like to take this and I have the little score marks on it, so it's easy to know where everything goes. So you can easily put the score marks and line them up. There's also little score marks for the spacers on the body, for the hands, so they will be able to properly hold something. So this is what mine looks like, all painted. And again, I did the shoes initially in the brown. I'm going to change those to black in a minute, but I did the hat in the red. Again, I just used my little makeup sponge to paint that. I left the nose unpainted. You could paint it brown or a flesh tone. I just didn't have any flesh tone paint, so I just left it as is. And then for the beard, I did do that in white. His hands I left unpainted. And the spacers you can leave unpainted because they don't even show and they adhere better when they're not painted. The little cookie I did in the brown, just like we've been throughout the project. The beard I left white. You could rustic it up by sandpapering or dry brushing some gray over it. And the body I did do in the red. Again, it's got the little spacer outline there. And then there are the two shoes. So for his shoe, I just took my black paint marker and I just hold the shoe down with a little Q-tip or a toothpick to just make it easier to handle the little piece. So next we just need to start lining things up to adhere. The trickiest one is the hat. So I always like to do a dry fit on that first. I just put a little glue on the solid parts of the buffalo plaid, and then I have a few seconds to work with it. So I try to get the curlicue at the top first and the sides all adhered. And then I just start pressing down, and then it's all put on there. And once the hat is right, everything else goes together very easily, just like a puzzle. So you're going to go ahead, and the next one you're going to do is the beard. If you want to paint the beard up a different color, you can go ahead. I just did it white because I want it to look like Santa, but it could have a black beard, gray beard, whatever you like. I just put dabs all over and line it up with those score lines, and then with the hat that I've already glued on, and start pressing it down. For the nose, I put a little dab in there, and then on the back of the nose, and again, that's just unpainted. For the body, that's going to slide up right underneath your beard. And you just need a few drops of glue with that. For the shoes, I just do a dry fit with those again because each one's a little different. I want to make sure I have them in the right spot. Do some glue on the back, do a little glue on the white part, and press them down. And we're getting super close to being done. Next are our little spacers. And you can just do a little dab in the outline, a little dab on the back of the spacer, press it down, repeat the process for the other side, and then your spacer is on there. And next we are going to adhere the little hands on top of the spacers. So you're going to take each hand, and they're going to line up the little round bottom part of the hand right on top of the spacer. So I just put glue on top of the spacer, and then I press the hand down and wipe away any excess, and just, you'll see the little space there now where it's going to hold things. And you want to let that dry real good. And same thing, I just repeat the process on the other side, and then both of the hands are there, and they are going to be ready to hold your cookie or whatever you want to put in there. So you can see I've slowed this down so you can kind of see the space where the hands will be holding things. And that's what it looks like all together. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take your little cookie and place that in there, and he just holds that cookie like he's been eating it. I did have an extra peppermint. You could put something like that in there. He could also hold a little piece of paper with a sign, kind of like an elf on the shelf thing, but a lazy gnome. And he also comes with a little stand. So you just want to take this bracket, the stand bracket, I guess you would call it, and line it up with the bottom of the gnome. And then you're going to put the brace on top of that and just put a line where the brace is. Put a little glue on there and just line that up with your line. And then press that down and make sure it's on there good and adhered. And then the little stand bracket is going to go in there, and you just angle it, and then he stands up and he holds his cookie or whatever. And we are on to our final project. Project number 5 is the Baked with Love mini cutting board and beaded garland. So it's kind of 2 projects in one. We've got the little cutting board with the words and the hearts that you're going to paint, and then we have got these beads, and we're going to make a tassel, and so that's the second part of that. We use red, brown, and white for this project. You can use whatever colors that you want. You've got a small bunch of twine, a big bunch of twine, and those beads that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So to get yours painted and ready to roll, what I did was I took the cutting board, and I like to paint the front and the back of the cutting board. Reason being is that is going to show sometimes. So the back is kind of got this plain and a little char mark from the laser. And so I use the antique wax. I'm just going to show you how that product works. It's the Waverly antique wax from Walmart. You just go ahead and put that on with whatever you want. I use my makeup sponge, and then you just wipe it off right away with a paper towel, blends it in and gives it a beautiful finish. You let that dry, and then we are going to, of course, take that Bake with Love that we painted in white with our sponge, and we are going to also show you that we use a red marker or red paint for those hearts. Since they're so tiny, the heart marker, the red marker, is going to work great for that. So now we're going to start adhering everything together. So you decide which is going to be the front or back of your cutting board. It really doesn't matter because it's the same on both sides. You're going to do a dry fit on your words, just making sure they line up just fine. And you're going to just take and apply little bits of glue on the back and press it down to adhere it. And you're going to repeat the process for the little hearts. They just fit on the little white portions, like a little outline of white around that red heart for a really cute little finished product. Then we are done with that portion of the project. Next, you're going to take your twine. You want to take the bigger bunch of the two. It's got a little piece of twine wrapped around it. Set that aside. We'll use that later. And you're just going to wrap that twine around 4 of your fingers until you have a little tail of it left. And then you will go ahead and take that other bunch of twine, take the holder off that, and you're going to string that through the top of your loop. And then you are going to make a double knot at the top of that loop and let the excess hang down, and make sure that is just as long as your loop, because we're going to have that be part of the tassel. So you won't have a stray end of it or anything like that. So you do a nice tight, super tight double knot. Then you are going to take one more length of your small piece of twine that's just over there to the left, and I'm going to take that and I am going to tie that around the very top portion to get that bump at the top of the tassel. So you go ahead and do that and get that again in a double knot, and the excess is going to just hang down in the front and be part of the tassel. Then you're going to take your scissors at the bottom of the loop and just cut through that loop to make a tassel, and then you're going to come in one more time with your scissors, hold everything super tight, give it a little haircut so all your strings are the same length, and then you have your finished tassel. Now that you have this long string, so now you're going to take a little piece of painter's tape and put that at the end of this long string, and that is what you are going to use to string on your beads. So I like to get my beads organized and figure out my pattern. So I go ahead and I do one of my naturals, the whites, another natural, a red, and a white. Your beads are going to maybe be different colors or patterns or whatever. You're going to get a mixture of red, white, and natural. You're going to get the same amount of beads as I show here, so you can do your groups, but you are going to have possibly different, because you're going to get whatever I have on hand, and depending on how many kits that I do, the beads are going to vary, but you will get something that coordinates with your kit. So you go ahead and you just string those on. Like I said, the little tape or a toothpick helps push it through too. And you're just going to go all the way down to your tassel, and you're just going to repeat until you have all your beads on the garland, and you'll have quite a long tail at the end, and we will need that to tie onto the cutting board. So this is what mine is going to look like when it has everything all strung on it. And I've got my consistent pattern, and I've got the tassel at one end, and I've got the excess at the other. I'm going to just take my excess, feed it through that little hole in the cutting board, leaving just a little slack, and I feed it through there twice. And then I tie one little knot there at the base so it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to take the excess and I'm feeding it up through that first bigger bead there, and I'm going to tie that off in a double knot right there. And once I have the double knot made, I am going to cut off the excess, and once I have the excess off, then I slide that bead up, and then that knot is hidden within the hole of that bead.